Smith this evening. And when I started researching this case, I was really kind of surprised at the kind of picture-perfect relationship that she and her boyfriend kind of portrayed. And then the way it ended up, all that glitters isn't gold. But Denita was the daughter of Sharon Cook and Calvin Smith. She was a smart cookie. She was a graduate of West Charlotte High School. She had received her BA in English from NC Central University, and she was a full-time master's student at NC Central University. And when this case happened, she was just 25 years old. By all accounts, Denita was a beautiful African-American woman who so many people described her as intelligent and on top of her game. Prior to her murder, Denita appeared to be in a great place in her life. Like I said, she was a graduate student, and she was aspiring to be a photojournalist, and she was very happily engaged to a man named Jameer Stroud. He worked as a police officer in Greensboro, North Carolina. Now, Denita met Jameer at school, and he was described as intelligent and charming. Denita and Jameer were like the power couple. They were the envy of everyone in the quaint town of Durham. And it seemed like Denita had everything going for her, but behind the scenes, her fiancé Jameer had a secret. He was having an affair with a woman named Shannon Crowley. Shannon was a local 911 dispatcher for the same police department where Jameer worked. And while Denita was busy planning their wedding and trying to make life perfect, Shannon was plotting a way to take Jameer from Denita. I read an article from Shannon's parents. They were Anne and Keith, where they said that they didn't know Jameer. They thought that Shannon thought that he was just kind of a friend. However, this was not quite true because their relationship did become intimate, and Shannon got pregnant with her third child. Shannon didn't want to have another baby, and she terminated the pregnancy. This apparently made Jameer really upset, and he ended up breaking up with her. Shannon's parents in this article said that Shannon was afraid of Jameer, that he started to stalk her, and he started to call at all hours of the night and threaten her, and he was really angry. Now, the details of what happened next are kind of muddled. I read several articles about this case and compiled it all together for you, but I can't Shannon fired 2 shots into the back of Danita's head before fleeing the scene. At this point, a 911 call comes in from a man at the complex, and he says he was at his home in the Campus Crossings apartment complex, and he thought that a woman had fallen down the stairs. He reported that there was blood everywhere and she was not moving. Detective Sean Pate of the Durham Police Department arrives at the scene. He said that the woman's keys, purse, and wallet were all over the place. There was still money in her wallet, so robbery was ruled out. But Denita was identified from the ID in her wallet. Obviously, as I described before, Danita's cause of death was a gunshot wound to her head. She had been shot with a .38 caliber revolver. Detectives, once they realized it was a gunshot and not a fall down the stairs, interviewed as many people as possible to see if anyone had seen what had happened, but nobody had. A few people remembered hearing like a big banging sound, but they admitted that it sounded more like 2 garbage can tops being banged together rather than a gun blast, which seemed really strange to me because that's a pretty dramatic difference in noise, if you ask me. But there were a lot of witnesses, including a groundskeeper for the apartment complex, that said that they did see a woman running away from the scene. This woman was described as 5'10", light-skinned, and witnesses said that she drove away in a burgundy truck. The groundskeeper even said that he had pulled his car right up next to her and asked her if she was okay. The woman didn't say anything. She kind of had her hands up to her face, but she nodded and then quickly drove away. While the police were at the scene, a man shows up and he goes to Detective Pate. This man introduces himself as Jameer Stroud, and he says he's Danita's fiance. The police ask Jameer if he knows anyone that drives a burgundy truck, and he says, "Yeah, my ex-girlfriend, Shannon Crowley." The next day, police go to Shannon's work to question her. She tells the police, yes, she and Jameer had dated, but they had broken up when she didn't want to have his baby. Police ask Shannon if she knows Danita Smith, and Shannon says, yeah, that's Jameer's ex-girlfriend. I've never met her, but I saw her picture once. Police then ask Shannon one more question. Do you have a gun? She says no, but this turns out to be a lie. Technically, Shannon didn't own a gun, but she did have a gun. She had borrowed one from a coworker for protection against Jameer. This coworker came forward after he heard about the case, and the gun was a .38 caliber revolver, just like the murder weapon. I found it really strange that her coworker would loan her a gun. I feel like that's just kind of not what you do when you own a gun, because if something happens, it gets traced back to you and not the person you loaned it to. I don't know, it just seemed really weird to me. But 2 days after Danita's murder, Jameer is brought in for questioning. He was asked about his relationship with Shannon in more detail, and he admits that yes, he had an affair, but no, it wasn't serious. The police asked Jameer, they'd heard that he was stalking Shannon and about these late night phone calls where he was threatening her, and Jameer says, no, you've got it all wrong. She's stalking me. She wanted to have the baby with him, but that he broke up with her after that. So, Jameer's guards reveal that she was in Durham the day of Danita's murder, and her phone pinged off a tower just a quarter of a mile away from Campus Crossings apartments. They also tested her car for gunshot residue, especially the steering wheel, and it came back positive, and the police were confident that they had a case against Shannon Crowley. On January 9th, 2007, 5 days after Danita's murder, Shannon Crowley was arrested. Y'all, she smiled in her mugshot. She smiled. Reminded me really eerily of Jodi Arias. When Shannon gets to jail, she tells her attorneys she wants to talk, and she wants to tell them her side of the story. Shannon tells her attorneys that the day before Danita's murder, she and her kids woke up to find Jameer in her room. He told her to be quiet, and she had her babysitter take the kids somewhere safe, which, why is your babysitter there in the middle of the night, but whatever. She said that Jameer kept her up talking all night. Sometimes he was calm, and sometimes he was just raging that Shannon had left him. At around 5 a.m., he told Shannon that it was time for her to go somewhere with him. She told him that she had to go to work, and he said either she would die or her kids would die if she didn't go with him right now. So they left in Shannon's truck. Shannon said that Jameer made her drive to an apartment complex. She said that he took her keys and her phone, and she waited for a while. Jameer got out of the car, and she waited for a while, and suddenly she hears him fighting with another woman. She said she really couldn't hear the argument, but so she decided to get out of the car to see if she could hear better, because you know us women were nosy. Then she hears a gunshot, and she sees Jameer running towards the car. So she gets back in. He gets in and tells her to drive away quick while he hides in the back seat. The groundskeeper approached her car, remember, and Jameer told her to be quiet and drive away. Police believe this story could be plausible, but they're still pretty suspicious of Shannon. She was released on bail until her trial, and she moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, with her kids and her parents. At this time, Shannon's parents said that Jameer started calling again and again, and that they decided to come up with a plan to record his phone calls. These phone calls were played at trial, and Jameer is heard saying, "Who have you been talking to?" Shannon said she wasn't talking to anyone, and Jameer said, "I know you've been telling the police lies about me." Shannon asked Jameer, "Why is this happening? I didn't do anything." And he said, "It's all your fault. Denita found out about you, and she was pulling away from me." Jameer kept threatening Shannon, and he said that if she kept talking, he would find her. And Shannon said, "Find me and do what? You'll kill me too." And Jameer said, "You know I'll do it again." At this point, Shannon and her parents thought they had enough evidence to get Jameer locked up instead. So they give the tapes to Shannon's attorneys. On February 8th, 2010, 3 years after the murder, Shannon's trial begins. It's really a he said, she said case. The prosecution says Shannon was the stalker. Her defense says Jameer was, and that he was the real killer. Shannon testified on her own behalf. She told the court that she and Jameer were in a relationship. She was pregnant with his kid, but she just didn't want to have his baby, and that's why they broke up. She testified that on the morning of the murder, she accompanied Jameer to Danita's apartment, and, like I said that he committed everything, and she was just the driver. Her father said that if it's the last thing I ever do, I will prove that he is the one that actually committed the found Shannon guilty of first-degree murder. The judge immediately sentenced her to life in prison without parole. Shannon appeared absolutely stunned at this verdict, and when the judge asked her if she wanted to say anything, she didn't. Danita's mom made a statement in court, and she said, "Because of what Shannon did, there is a void in my life. You took my baby away from me. Someday I may forgive you, but right now I don't. You're vile, and you don't deserve to be a mother." Danita's father said he was thankful to God for the guilty verdict because he was glad that Denita didn't have to get murdered twice. "In my opinion, the evidence spoke for itself. It couldn't have been no other verdict but a guilty verdict," he said. Calvin, Danita's father, said he's still angry with Jameer. Jameer was honest on the stand. He admitted he had dated them both at the same time, and Calvin believes that Jameer did not do enough to protect Denita. Jameer Stroud caused a perfect storm to happen and then walked away from it. "And it was unfortunate for everyone in this case," said the judge. Greensboro Police Chief Tim Bellamy said Jameer was never a suspect in Danita's death, adding that he had never heard any allegations linking him to the case until Shannon's defense brought it up at trial. So, her guilty verdict came after Judge Stevens denied a request by Shannon's attorney for a mistrial. Jurors asked on Monday morning to listen to the recordings of what Shannon said were the phone conversations between her and Jameer. In one recording, a man acknowledged in a whisper that he had killed Smith, but that he wouldn't go to prison for it. Defense attorney Scott Holmes complained that the jurors were hearing more material on the tapes than they'd heard in the actual trial. He said, "There are substantially new materials that I did not have the opportunity to address in my closing argument. I think it violates our Sixth Amendment right to counsel now to have stuff played for the jury that was not put in state's evidence and published to them. They had the opportunity to publish that entire tape during the case." Judge Stevens denied the motion for a mistrial and allowed the jurors to listen to the tapes. They were put into evidence in their entirety, and the fact that only portions were played for the jury during the trial was irrelevant. Durham County Chief Assistant District Attorney, such a long name, David Sachs, told Judge Stevens that Holmes had access to all of the recordings for 2 years before to prepare for the trial. But Crowley's attorney said he planned to appeal her verdict. "I couldn't really find any evidence that this had happened." But I have a couple other facts to add to this case at the end that didn't really fit in anywhere. Authorities believe that Denita knew nothing of her fiancé's lover, and that she never suspected that her life was in danger. No evidence was ever discovered linking Jameer to Danita's murder or to the harassment of Shannon Crowley. The murder weapon was never found. Shannon still maintains her innocence, and so do her parents. Today, Shannon Crowley still resides in a North Carolina correctional facility. Jameer Stroud eventually moved away and married another woman, and they had kids. I thought this case was so strange. Oh, my leg is asleep. I'm so sorry. I don't know. It could go so many different directions. Did he actually kill her to try to be with Shannon? I mean, he was a cop, and we've heard of cops covering up other cops' crimes before, so I don't think it's out of scope to think that that's possible. On the other spin of that, if Shannon was stalking him after he broke up with her, and she was crazy, then it's pretty reasonable for her to think, I've got to get this woman out of my way. She's his fiance, and he is mine. We've heard many, many cases like that here on my channel, so I don't think it's improbable for that to be an option. So like I said, it's kind of a whodunit case. I do believe it was one of them. I'm not exactly sure which one I believe it was. I don't really know. The fact that they both said the other one was stalking them. I could see Jameer breaking up with her when she terminated the pregnancy, but at the same time, he had Denita, and he could have been with her and gotten married and had kids and just moved on with his life. So, I don't really know. I don't know. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this week, midweek, I will have a vlog for you about our crazy vacation. If you are a patron of mine and you watched my most recent ramble video, I told you about how crazy our last vacation was, and I'm afraid that this one almost tops that. I am beginning to wonder if karma hates me. If you are looking for more content from me, my Patreon, really good at advertising there, Shannon, jeez, is the way to do it. I am really trying to be better about posting over there. In fact, I'm about to go film a case for that channel right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you next time.